The infamous Acura NSX is one of the best Japanese cars, since it bears the status of a legendary sports car and is a source of pride for many owners. But only a few know its history and how this supercar became a symbol of the Japanese automobile industry and created its place in history. Japan already had produced magnificent cars like the Nissan GT-R and the Toyota 2000 GT, so nobody expected a supercar that could beat the likes of Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche to come out so soon. So the NSX came as a great surprise to the motoring industry. Suddenly, at the 1989 Chicago Motor Show, there's a new supercar from Honda. The infamous car manufacturer had finally decided to shoot for the stars. Sure, it had experimented before with the idea of a sports car in the early 80s with the lightweight HPX concept. But nobody expected Honda to put a sports car into production like this before. The company intended to create a car that could meet or exceed the performance of the Ferrari 328, as well as the Ferrari 348. Now, for a car like that, it would need to deliver some serious significant performance to beat the majority of the supercars at the time. This is where Honda came up with the concept bearing the name NSX, which stood for New, Sports Car and Experimental, and Honda called on Pininfarina to assist them with the design. Initially, Honda decided to use the 2.7-liter single overhead camshaft V6 engine from the Honda Legend for the NSX, but after some tests, they decided to develop an entirely new unit, the 270 GP 3.0 LV6 engine that is found in the NA1 NSX. The NSX's cockpit was inspired by the F-16 fighter jet and was located far forward on the body to increase visibility. Plus, the long-tail design of the NSX was great for enhanced high-speed stability. Honda was heavily involved in the NSX project, along with the famous Formula One driver Ayrton Senna, who also convinced Honda to stiffen the NSX's chassis after testing at the Suzuka circuit in Japan. The new Honda sports car project was an ambitious one, especially considering the company had zero to no experience making such a vehicle, let alone a sports car. Plus, Honda wasn't just competing with its traditional car manufacturer rivals, it was going straight for the best. So this new rear-wheel drive mid-engined car needed to beat or at least match Ferrari's V8-powered 328 GTB and 348 terabytes. The NSX was the first production car to be made almost entirely from aluminum, saving hundreds of kilograms compared to traditional steel. It was also pretty sturdy and stronger than rivals of the time. Other famous NSX features included a 4-channel anti-lock braking system and electric power steering to lessen weight. The wheels were forged billet aluminum and the tires were bespoke from Yokohama. This new sports car wore North America's Acura badge, and this new bright red NSX concept made it to the Drake Hotel for the 1989 Chicago Auto Show. Its first debut, and the rest is history. These NSX cars were built in Honda's newly constructed Tochigi facility by 200 of the company's most skilled and experienced men. Each one was handpicked with a requirement of at least 10 years of experience at Honda behind them. The NSX soon went on sale in Japan in the year 1990, and from November 1990 in Hong Kong and North America under Honda's luxury brand, Acura. Pretty soon after its launch, demand overwhelmed the supply across the globe. Initially, Honda had planned to build 25 cars in a day, but that soon doubled within a year. Plus, once the legendary designer Gordon Murray drove the NSX, while he was considering the design for a road car of his own, the NSX immediately became the benchmark for performance that eventually inspired the McLaren F1. However, Honda's dedication to making the ultimate supercar didn't stop with the standard NSX. In November 1992, the NSX Type R was unveiled, also known as the NSX-R. Further lightened by a considerable 120 kilograms thanks to the removal of many internal parts. But unfortunately, by this point, demand was dropping, not because the car sucked, but because the economy was taking a turn and fuel-thirsty sports cars were not really a top priority for the buyers. This is where Honda realized a revamp was needed. So Honda managed to manufacture different variants of the NSX throughout the years. And one after another, Honda came out with various variants to win back its market. In 1996, Honda launched the softer NSX-T with a folding Targa roof, which gave a small shove to sales, but it still wasn't enough. So in 1997, a major update arrived, with much lighter components and a new 3.2-liter engine. There was a small power boost and a tweak to the gearing too, as well as revised power steering and bigger brakes. That same year, the JDM-only NSX Type S also launched. One famous variant of the NSX was the 1999 NSX Zanardi, which was named in honor of Alex Zanardi, who had won the kart titles for the previous 2 years. Only 51 of these were made, which makes it one of the rarest and most desirable NSX to date. It is truly a car collector's dream car. Coming back to the story, at this point in time, the sports car market wasn't what it was. A big change was needed. The final update to the first generation NSX arrived in 2002. It was considered to be a facelift, bringing back aesthetic and suspension changes rather than a full mechanical overhaul. This new NSX had new headlights, wider rear tires, and different spring rates on the rear suspension, but that was about it. The NSX Type R also soon followed in mid-2002, with its carbon fiber bonnet and flat underbody for enhanced aerodynamics. Unfortunately, the NSX's sales still failed to impress, and the sports car left the US market for good in 2005. And as all great things must come to an end, the Series 1 NSX's production ended in 2005 due to poor sales. But fans still had hopes about a future version of the NSX. Much to their surprise, the NSX eventually returned in 2016 after 11 years away. Honda unveiled the second generation NSX at the 2015 Detroit Auto Show, surprising the fans. This reveal ignited speculations that Honda was planning a new sports car, expectedly with some type of electrification. Unlike the original NSX's focus on low weight and a pure driving experience, the second-gen NSX had a hybridized powertrain made up of a twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6, dual-clutch automatic transmission, and a trio of electric motors. This next-gen NSX wasn't the sports car Honda enthusiasts had hoped for, but it did manage to achieve almost identical goals to what the original NSX was initially designed for. Just as before, the NSX matched and sometimes even exceeded the performance of similar exotica, with a mighty 573 combined horsepower and 476 lb-ft of torque on tap from the hybrid drivetrain. The 0-to 60 miles per hour was in under 3.0 seconds, and the top speed of 191 miles per hour was great. All this while being as quiet, sturdy, reliable, and eco-friendly as an Accord coupe. Unfortunately, the new NSX also appeared to replicate the original's sales success as well, because not many NSX have been sold despite excellent pricing. The reviews of the new NSX were great. Fans loved it. Its comfortable ride was praised, as was its ease of driving at speed, but reviewers also noted that it lacked something. Unlike the first-gen NSX, this one struggled to stand out from the crowd. Unfortunately, the new NSX failed to set the world on fire the way that the first model had. Since sales were sluggish in 2020, production for Japan, Australia, and Europe was halted. And by the end of 2022, the NSX was dormant once again. But just like before, Honda has not given up because Acura has hinted at variants coming in the future that might spark some interest. Despite the relatively small impact of the next-gen NSX, the name is not dead, and we may not have to wait for 11 years for a new one. Honda revealed a new version is in the works, but this time it'll likely be all-electric. While only a few details are known, the launch of the Acura Performance Electric Vision concept in 2023 could be a pretty big hint at its direction. So this was the story behind the legendary Acura NSX. Who would have thought that the legendary Acura NSX started as an experiment, but turned into something much more and even inspired other legendary cars like the McLaren F1? Acura NSX was a car that redefined what the world thought of the Japanese motor industry and also forced the Europeans to up their game. This brings us towards the end of this video. Thanks for watching.